The last year of Lesbian Solidarity, I think, was either 81 or 82. We marched downtown, and it was a weekend festival as well, with workshops and a lot of processing and consciousness raising, and there was a dance Friday night and Saturday night, and oh gosh, there was like open mic and up and coming performers in the San Diego area, and that was Lesbian Solidarity. And in 1982 and 1983, the gay men's community wanted the women back, wanted the lesbians back, wanted our involvement. And the reason the women separated was because basically the men wanted to be like San Francisco, wanted to have a parade, wanted to have balloons and floats and celebrate and have a party. And the women's community, the lesbian feminist community, we didn't feel that we were there yet. We still wanted the march to be a march, to be political, to be loud and proud and strong and chanting and screaming and that sort of thing, and was of, you know, the late 70s and, you know, coming out of the 60s protest marches. The most important issue I feel in the 80s was, and especially the mid-80s, was the fundamentalist Christians. And they're not like they are today, where, you know, there's, you know, maybe 3 or 4 of them from 1 or 2 families, and they're located, you know, in the middle of the street by the fire department, where, you know, the police really have a hold on them and know that they're going to be safe in their little Fundy area. Back in the mid-80s, it was a time where the fundamentalist Christians were very well organized, the right wing, coming from Anita Bryant and that whole era. And they were coming down from San Francisco, from Orange County, from Mexico, from Los Angeles, and there were a lot of them. They were coming down every weekend to protest the birth control clinics. At that time period, there were clinic bombings. We had a clinic bombing in San Diego. And we were dealing with hundreds and hundreds of very angry fundamentalists who did not want us to be there. A young man from San Francisco, from the San Francisco band, there was an altercation between him and there's a discrepancy. Some people think it was just one person. Some say he had been provoked by a number of fundamentalist Christians. And to get them out of his face, he sprayed them with a water bottle. You know, the water bottles that you spray on your face. He was one of the water boys for the San Francisco band. You know, young man, 5'9", you know, wearing shorts and flip-flops and a tank top, you know. What happened was supposedly a police officer warned him not to do it. And most people from out of town didn't have an idea of the numbers of fundamentalist Christians that came to protest in San Diego. We had literally hundreds, 400, 500 fundamentalist Christians that were spread out for like 8-10 blocks down Fifth Avenue. And the police department really didn't have control of them. They didn't that year. It was a change of command where everything was status quo, and, you know, the police really felt they knew what they were doing, and didn't really communicate with us that year about what our needs were. And usually there was a barrier between the fundamentalist Christians, a one-lane street barrier, and the parade. Well, in 1985, that didn't happen. And the fundamentalists were right there instigating things with the parade participants. And this young man was wrestled to the ground, and he bit a police officer and was taken down. He was taken to a number of hospitals. They tried to draw his blood. They wanted to prosecute him for murder because of the thought that he might have AIDS. And the hospitals refused because he refused to have his blood taken. He was in a relationship, and you know, it would have incriminated him if he had tested positive. To this day, we don't know. He was taken downtown, and they took his blood at the downtown police station in their infirmary under duress. That year, the police realized that people could get hurt. One of their own might have been hurt. And it opened up for the creation of a police liaison committee to negotiate with the police department, to network with the police department. Out of it came training for the police academy about lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered rights, who we are as a community. The police liaison committee, we met once a month for a number of years, and we broke down the myths and stereotypes, both of the queer community and the police department. The next year, in 1986, was created the Future Former Fundy Fighters, the 4 Fs, by a woman, Mary Lou Samblice, and her lover, Sandy. These were a number of people that were also escorts at the abortion clinics and birth control clinics that dealt with the fundamentalists on a weekly basis and had nonviolent training. And what the Future Former Fundy Fighters did was they were a human barrier between the fundamentalist Christians and the police and the parade participants. So when the parade participants walked by, what they saw were the Future Former Fundy Fighters in their white t-shirts and their lavender sashes and blue jeans. That was our uniform. The Future Former Fundy Fighters had their back to the fundamentalists, and they faced the parade participants and smiled and laughed and sang and chanted. One of our slogans was "Turn the other cheek," and if you can't turn one cheek, turn both cheeks. You know, turn your back on the fundamentalists. That we had the right to be there, to march, to parade, to protest, to be who we are in the streets. We had the permits, we had the permission, and they weren't going to spoil our party. And don't let them spoil your party. You know, they didn't belong in Hillcrest, they didn't belong in our community, and you're not going to spoil our party. So that was the Future Former Fundy Fighters. They were around, I think, about 3 or 4 years, at least.